It's Thursday night. You know what that means. The recap of Wednesday Night Dynamite. Of course, I am KG Landry. And of course, we have my host, the wrestling enthusiast, the one and only, thank God, the one and only, Mark.
Hey, they broke the mold when they made me.
Yeah, they did. So before we get started, got to show you something. Trying to spill my coffee. Our first ring the damn bell coffee mug.
Sweet.
It also has our shit. It's my damn background. It looks invisible. There we go. Oh wait. Anyway, it has our YouTube channel and everything on it. Hopefully, once we become professionals, start selling them.
There you go. You're reaching for the stars, buddy. Reach for them stars.
Look, I gotta have something to reach for.
Only 1995. That cup could be yours.
Absolutely.
Oh no, quick!
And wait, there's more.
You get the fork and spoon and knife set with it for another $3.95.
So real quick before we get, I don't not much news, just a little bit something from WWE. Apparently, they have announced that for their last show on USA, because they've been there for just about 2 decades. So for their last show on USA before they go to Netflix on January 6th, they're planning on that being a pretty big show as well, which is awesome because that means that we're going to get a big show for the last show for USA, right? And then we're getting a really big show for their first Raw on Netflix. So that's really good news for fans. I know for Netflix, they supposed to have this massive main event. It's reported that CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and John Cena is going to be on that show for January 6th. So these are lining up to be pretty big for the those 2 weeks. So I'm pretty excited about that.
We'll see.
You're such a dick, man.
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of struggling with WWE a little bit. You know, um,
Oh God.
for 40 years.
Look, I was on TikTok live today and I was on a channel where they were talking about AEW and WWE and they were literally fighting over it. And I'm like, for fuck's sake. I mean, let's just enjoy professional wrestling. It's okay to share your opinion. We do it, right? I'm definitely very critical over both shows. That's okay. But when you start talking about one should go out of business or the talent on one sucks, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So when I come on to my podcast with my co-host, one thing I look forward to is at least talking to someone who's logical. And tonight, you're coming on with your bullshit about WWE already.
I just I don't see anything original, and that's not just WWE. That's anywhere. You know, and I guess I don't have the same excitement I did 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Definitely not 20 years ago. You know,
Well, uh,
I watch it just to keep up with it and enjoy it.
well, look, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news,
But you will.
but I will. You and I are fucking dinosaurs. We've been watching wrestling for freaking 40 plus years. Of course, nothing's going to be original to us anymore. We're old. But a lot of these younger kids, this is fresh shit. A lot of these kids, believe it or not, they've never heard of NWO. They don't have any idea about Monday Night Raws or Monday Night War, right? None. Zero. Um,
I'd almost disagree with that because I found out my nephew was a wrestling fan like 2 or 3 years ago, and he was only like 5 or 6 at the time, and he was spouting off about Eddie Guerrero, and Guerrero had been dead for at least 8 years before that kid hit the ground.
Yeah, but I think that's a little different because I brought up NWO not too long ago in another live, and these kids were like, "Who? Huh? What?"
Oh my
And
god.
I'm like, do you guys not go take advantage of WWE's library? Go check it out." And they were actually excited to go watch this stuff because they never heard of it.
Oh my god.
Um, and maybe they're a minority of the younger generation who's never heard of it. But I mean, at the same time, wrestling to these younger people it's much fresher. The things that's happening, a lot of them, this is fresh compared to what you and I see as fresh. Because again, you know, we've seen everything. And a good example is I remember, gosh, I must have been 11, 12 years old. And during that period, Mid South Wrestling, that's what I was watching. The Junkyard Dog and Ted DiBiase were tag teams. They were good friends. They were buddies.
Yes, they were.
And during a match, I think it might have been for to see who was the number one contender or something, they ended up having to face one another. And they were torn about it. You could tell during the ring, they're trying to take care of each other. But then Ted DiBiase is thrown out the ring and he puts on that black glove for the first time in his career that was loaded. The
Yep.
Junkyard Dog with the check on him. Ted DiBiase turned heel, knocked the Junkyard Dog out, threw him back in the ring, and got the pin. That's the first time I remember as a wrestling fan that many years ago feeling legit hatred for Ted DiBiase or
You know,
hatred towards any wrestling, any wrestlers. I might have disliked them, but there was that hatred there. Now, granted, I must have been probably 10 or 11 because this is during the time I still kind of thought wrestling was real, right? And to see a wrestling figure that I loved, like Ted DiBiase, turn on another figure that I absolutely loved, the Junkyard Dog, I was hot, you know. I say that to say this. I don't think that there is as much pure heat as there was back then. And when I say pure heat, I mean heat to the point that you hate this guy. Everyone now, including the younger kids, they all know now that wrestling is predetermined, right? The matches are predetermined. When you and I were younger, that was still a secret. Our parents may have known, right? But to us, and that was a secret. This is something that they kept. I mean, this is during the time that there's stories that these wrestlers would be trying to walk out after the match or even before the match. They were having piss thrown on them, battery acid, right? This is during a time where people took their shit real. That doesn't exist anymore. And I almost feel bad for the fans now because that it was, I don't know, it's much more enjoyable back then, feeling that love or that hate.
yeah, but nowadays you throw battery acid on somebody, you're going to jail. Back then, they just considered it the price of business.
Yeah, I mean it's much safer for wrestlers, professional wrestlers now. That's for sure. I mean, there's guys that's gotten stabbed back in
Right,
those days.
right. Yeah.
But nonetheless, and speaking of hatred, let's get down to Dynamite recap. And I don't hate it, but boy, there was a lot of people. There was quite a few people today. Whenever I was discussing professional wrestling, that they hate AEW for some reason, and I don't get it. I understand that it's not WWE. I'm glad it's not WWE. We don't need another WWE, and I understand that Tony Khan keeps on getting in his way. I also understand that maybe Dynamite hasn't been the best. There's been bad shows here and there, but guess what? WWE's had their fair share of bad shows. This past Wednesday, another good Dynamite. It wasn't as good as last week, right? At least in my opinion, but it was still good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm not going to sit there and say different. I think this Continental Classic, because of the mix they got in there, really adds a lot because you're seeing talent that you wouldn't normally see get paired up, and now they're getting paired up, and you don't need a storyline behind it. You know,
And that's just what I was going to get to, Mark, real quick. Here's a question for you. This is my concern, right? Dynamite seems to have gotten better and been very enjoyable because of this Continental Classic, right? My fear is once this is over with, are we going to go back to Tony Khan getting in his own way, not listening to the right people, and having just lousy storylines that is making Dynamite hard to watch sometimes?
I think they're setting up some storylines during this Continental Classic. You know, but yeah, there is a fear of falling back and whatnot. But again, these guys got to be geared up for their streaming service and going on HBO Max or Max, excuse me. They got to get their stuff squared away because if they don't, they're going to lose that streaming service lickety split. You
Yeah,
know,
I have to believe that Tony Khan has enough business sense behind him to know that, look, our shit hasn't been the best. We are now going to be featured not just on TBS, but on Max at the same time as we're on TBS. Not to mention our pay per views is going to be on Max. He has to know that, okay, I have to put out better stuff. And before you answer that, let me say this, and I said this today when someone asked me, why do I think it's Tony Khan that has kind of messed up or been the blame for AEW falling the way it has? Let me tell you why I blame Tony Khan. Even if there's I don't think there is, but even if there's a creative team that they're the ones that's writing the best, that's not writing the best stuff. The bottom line is Tony Khan is the owner of this company. So regardless of what happens, either failures or success, that is on Tony Khan. He makes the last decision, right? He's the one that's part of the hiring as well. So regardless if he's hired bad people or he has bad people in his ear telling him to do the wrong things, ultimately it falls on Tony Khan.
absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, and if you're going to be the financial backer and the figurehead, yeah, you got nobody else to turn to because ultimately it's you that has to face the. So I can't disagree with you at all. You know,
Yeah.
and as far as creative control or whatnot or booking, I have no idea if there's any kind of booking or anybody whispering in his ear, coaching him or whatnot. Is he a super fan? Yeah, he's a super fan. Does he like to deny reality? I think a little bit. But nobody's going to go and say, well, our product stinks. You know, you got to blow smoke up somebody's pipe, otherwise nobody's going to watch.
Yeah. And you know what? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm good.
Uh, I hate to give one person like just all the credit for the success of AW in the beginning. But you have to look at things. AEW was on fire when Cody Rhodes was there, and we know Cody Rhodes was part of the executives. He was part of creating stories. He was there helping guide things. When Cody Rhodes left, it wasn't far after that that AEW started to fall down. So I have to believe that Cody Rhodes had to have something to do with their success in the beginning. And if that is the case, obviously they're not going to get Cody Rhodes back, but that should tell Tony Khan that, look, I need to get me someone Cody Rhodes like that has the experience and the mind for professional wrestling like Cody has to hire to help me with this. Because Khan should just be and I keep on saying this, he should just be the money guy, right? He should get out of the way and just be the money guy. And I think part of the problem is that Tony Khan is such a huge wrestling fan that he wants to be a part of the things that's happening with creative and whatnot. And I get it. There's things that I've been passionate about that I love that I wanted to have my hand in. But guess what? I had to step back for it to be successful. And I think that's what Tony has to do.
I think Tony's trying to pattern himself after Vince to a degree, but Tony wasn't born into this like Vince was. You know, I don't care if Vince started when he was 10. I don't care if he started when he was 18. Vince was born into this, and that gives you a hell of a lead.
I tell you what, Mark, the nail in the coffin for AEW would be if Tony Khan did try to be like Vince McMahon and he decided to become a character. He is terrible on TV, terrible, just making his own announcements. He is terrible. He is awkward. He is not Vince McMahon. Look, Vince McMahon has done some terribly horrible things, apparently, but you cannot take away from the fact that he is a booking genius, right? Vince McMahon was also able to create Mr. McMahon, which will go down in history as one of the best gimmicks as a heel ever in professional wrestling. His storylines with The Rock, with Stone Cold Steve Austin mainly, will go down as being one of the best that cannot be topped. And it definitely won't be topped by Tony Khan. Tony Khan is a behind the scenes guy. He is the guy that should be about the money. And he is the guy that, when his talent is getting out of control, that he's the one to step in and put the fear of God in him and saying, you either straighten your shit up or you can get the fuck out of here. Right?
Yeah,
That's his role. But the problem is he wants to be, remember, whenever each other's talking, we can't hear you. And I'll land my plane right here. Another big part of the problem is I think Tony Khan is trying to be their friends, their buddies, and he cannot be that. He needs to treat this as a business.
right. I don't think he's got the backbone that Vince had. But you know what? To be honest, Vince could take a punch, and Vince could probably throw a punch. Tony Khan can't.
No, and go ahead.
And he was a believable bad guy because I think deep down he had the fundamentals to be there. You know, they say some of the best wrestlers, their characters are just a greater persona of their real life. You know, so when Stone Cold Steve Austin comes out as a badass, well, there's some legitimacy to that. You know, same with Steve Williams, Terry Gordy, Michael P.S. Hayes. You know, Bret Hart to a degree. You know, I mean, it takes a lot of balls to punch your boss in the face and spit on him. You know, it takes a lot of balls. You know, and I'm not a Bret Hart fan, but you know what? I can respect Bret Hart and what he's done. All right. And do I think he's legitimately a badass? You know, I think he can handle his own in a bar fight. I sure know I ain't gonna poke that bear.
Well, I'll tell you what, if he's anything like his dad, Stu, he's a badass because Stu made grown ass men cry in the, down in this basement, or as they call it, in the dungeon. But the thing with Vince McMahon is this, and you nailed it on the head. The people who wrestled for WWE, they respected Vince as far as he's the boss. They knew that they better act a certain way because he didn't have any problems getting rid of your ass, right?
Absolutely not.
Um, and I don't think that that same level of respect is there between the wrestlers and Tony Khan.
I agree totally. I agree totally. And I think you're right. I think he's trying to be their friend and he can't. You know, he's almost got to be, untouchable, and he's not, you know. And I think if he's got the Young Bucks booking, I'm sorry, but these guys are still bingo parlor wrestlers. They still have that mindset. And it's like, that's great if you want to fill a bingo hall, but we're trying to fill arenas. Okay, not bingo halls. You know.
Yeah. So, by the way, speaking of wrestler promotions that was in trouble, TNA, who was struggling for years, man, have they been making a comeback? I was listening to JBL on Bruce Pritchard's podcast. Bruce Pritchard is out right now, so JBL has been taking kind of sitting in the spot. But JBL has been kind of traveling around, and he's been on TNA. TNA, and gosh, I wish I could remember where, but they have just booked a 20,000 seat arena for a big event that they're going to be holding. TNA, right? TNA isn't too far behind. I tell you what, if TNA can get them a TV deal on a major network, they will surpass AEW if AEW keeps on going where they're going. TNA will become the number 2 wrestling promotion. They've been breaking records themselves for attendance.
Might have to tune in and see what it's all about.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have some, they have the Hardy brothers there. Um, they have Dolph Ziggler, whatever his name is, can't remember his real name, going by his real name, obviously. They have Joe Henry there. And supposedly these guys are tearing it up. These fans are really clamoring onto them. Apparently, the few times they kind of worked with WWE on NXT, that really helped them out, and they put eyes on their product, and now they're doing really well now. So, good for them. I would love to be able to hear the same news about NWA, because look, like I said, man, I want all of these promotions to just blow up and become a big thing, because that's great for the fans and that's great for the wrestlers. I mean, WWE unfortunately is getting to the point with their different shows, especially at pay-per-views, that the average wrestler fan can't afford their shit. And I think that's because of TKO, which leads us to being able to depend on being able to go to shows like AEW, TNA, NWA type of a thing. I think WWE's may really hurt themselves, or TKO may hurt themselves with those prices being so high to see their shows, because they got to realize who their wrestling fans are.
It's funny you mentioned that because I just saw a clip about ticket prices for WWE. In 2000, they were like $16, and now they're like 150 to 200 bucks a pop.
Well, for SummerSlam, it's going to cost me to go $1,000, and that's for me and one other person, $1,000.
Right, but I'm talking your average show.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
understand, they want to recap the money they spent for WWE, but you don't have to do it in the first 2 years.
Yeah. Yep, I get it. But let's get to the recap.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do that tonight. All right. So AEW Dynamite came from Kansas City. We started with Mox and Pac versus Jay White and Orange Cassidy, which, you know what? I enjoyed this. I enjoyed this a lot. Let's see. Eventually, Adam Page came out interfering in the match, and it ended up being a melee with Orange Cassidy, Hangman, and White. Well, Mox and them guys just slinked off, and they were probably laughing, going, "Well, these guys are going to do themselves in."
Yeah, and this is where AEW keeps on losing me a little bit, right? I understand they want these big, exciting storylines, but at the same time, who's the baby face and who's the heel here, right? You have the guys who's supposed to be kind of the AEW good guys beating the shit out of each other as well. Um, and I know they tried to cover it by saying, Tony Schiavone said, "How are we going to beat John Moxley and his group whenever the guys representing AEW is beating the shit out of themselves?" But still, it's I don't know. It confuses me about where they're trying to go with this, and it's not the good confusion. Like, ooh, this is intriguing. Let me see what's going to happen. Kind of like what was happening with the whole bloodline thing, and when the first time the original bloodline storyline. No, this is confusion as of, okay, are they? It really looks like they're lost and they don't know what to do with this storyline. Now, I have a feeling that it's going to be the Young Bucks that's going to come back and get all these guys in line from AEW, and then they're the ones that's going to stand up. I think that's where they're going with this. I have a feeling, but I don't know. Again, to me, it looks like they're just confused about what to do with the storyline.
Yeah, I can't argue that. All right, so next we go to Mox backstage ranting, but I was surprised he did offer a four-way dance or fatal four-way with these three guys and himself.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was waiting for you to rebuttal.
Oh, so did we skip over the whole thing with Christian being up top and Darby Allin?
No, that was after the fact, and it wasn't Darby.
Oh,
It was
oh yeah, yeah. Hey, not Darby, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hook. So, see, this is what I'm talking about. What John Moxley did by saying, "Hey, let's have a three-way." John Moxley's supposed to be a heel, but that was a babyface move, right? Because usually is the heels not want to defend the titles. This is why babyfaces are supposed to chase the title. This was a babyface move. So what again? What are they doing?
no. Wait a minute, that's an oxymoron because you said the baby faces are supposed to chase the heel.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Cassidy is obviously a baby face. Jay White, anti-hero. Hangman Page, anti-hero. You know. So in a way, you've got the heroes, I guess, chasing the heel.
No,
You
no,
know.
no. I'm saying with this title, when John Moxley said, let's have a three-way dance for this, for the title, right? I'm gonna put my title up for this three-way, right? That is not something a heel does. A heel doesn't want to put himself in that position. It's the baby face that will do that. It's usually the baby faces that's having to chase the heel for a chance at the title. That's
Gotcha.
why I say this was a babyface move by John Moxley, which leaves me confused about what the fuck they're doing.
All right, gotcha. All right, so next we go to Kristen Cage. It was a typical Kristen Cage rant. I'm not going to take anything away. It was good, but it's nothing that hasn't been said before. Hook comes out
So
in the
real quick, before hold on, Mark, before you go to Hook, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but Christian Cage was having problems with his promo. Every time he forgot a line, go back and watch it. It's when he told the crowd to shut up. Every single time. When he started to stumble on his line, he would tell the crowd to shut up so he could regain his thought, which that's a professional. Look, that is what professionals do, right? You're able to do something to antagonate the crowd while gathering your thoughts together for your promo. So props to him for the minds, for that knowledge to be able to do something like that.
whether he's going off the top of his head or he's reading lines. Nonetheless, you got to give him props. He can balance out pretty good.
Yep.
All right, so then Hook comes out and starts a brawl with Christian Cage, and then Saban and Nick Wayne come out and kind of take care of Hook. Hook's apparently got a cast on his arm. I've never been a fan of these guys with casts because they're on for 2 weeks or they're on for 6 years. Take your pick. You know, but they pretty much leave Hook laying out. Next we got Osprey versus Claudio. Now this could have been a good match, and it was a good match, but I think it could have been better. And Osprey, I don't know if he's trying to sell, old injuries or whatnot, but you know, every match I watched, the last probably 3, 4, 5 matches, he's selling some sort of injury that he's got.
Yeah. I was expecting a much better match. It was good, but I agree because this is Claudio and this is also
Will Osprey.
Will Ospreay, right? Um yeah, it should have been a much better match, but I'll take it. It wasn't terrible. It was still good. I enjoyed it, but I thought it'd be more. I was surprised. I was expecting Claudio to win. I
I
was
was
surprised to see that it was Will.
Now was it me or did Osprey look like uh, Fletcher last night with his haircut?
I didn't notice he had a haircut.
Well, his hair was a little different, and it kind of
I
looked like
think he had facial hair. I think he had like a 5 o'clock shadow.
no, his actual hair was cut a little different.
Was it? No, I didn't notice it.
All right. Well, then we'll move on. All right. So after
Oh,
Claudio grabbed a chair and he was ready to whoop ass on Osprey, which I would have liked to seen. Then Darby Allin comes flying out like the Roadrunner and chases Claudio off. Now the strange part is Darby Allin and Osprey face each other next week, or maybe even this weekend. I can't remember. I think it's
Yeah, I
next week.
think it's this weekend. And this is my problem. Um, Look, I like Darby Allin. He's entertaining to watch, but he is so small that I just have a hard time looking at him as this pillar of AW or hero of AW. Just like I have a hard time accepting that Claudio, who is no undoubtedly, Claudio, there's no doubt that Claudio is one of the strongest professional wrestlers on AEW's roster. This man is just fucking strong. And for him to be running away from a 140-pound skinny kid like Darby Allin, I just have a hard time with that.
I think Darby had a bat though too. Not that that would matter when you got a chair in your hand, and you're Claudio. You know,
Now, I think it's a skateboard.
no, I think he had a bat. I could be wrong.
Was this bad? Okay. Whatever. I can
Anyways,
tell you that at 6'4", 268 pounds, if Darby Allin came at me, even with a baseball bat, I wouldn't run from him. And I'm not an athlete like Claudio, right? So if I am not going to run for Darby, I have a hard time suspending my disbelief that Claudio would run from this kid.
look, man, at your age and size, I don't think you can run anymore.
That's besides the point, Dick.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not throwing stones, man. I'm not throwing stones because I don't think I could run either. So I take an
Your
ass.
old ass ain't throwing your kidney stones.
Yeah, my ass would be whooped. Um. All right, so then we go to an interview with Ricochet, talking about his match with Brody King. There really wasn't much to that interview, to be honest. Then they show a clip of MGF showing up.
Hold on a second. I want to go back to Ricochet. Is it just me? And I mentioned this last week, and I hope you paid attention this week. Is it me, or is Ricochet? Did Ricochet already lose a lot of those fans that was excited for him to first show up? And he hasn't been on very long. He hasn't been on AEW very long. But the crowd really didn't make that much noise when they announced him for his interview. You heard a couple of people. And even when he came out to the ring, it's like people just or whatever about him already.
I think what made WWE successful really back in the day is they kept it kind of in weight divisions. All right. Where, if you were 250 plus, you were a heavyweight and you faced world champion. If you're under that, you were intercontinental champion, or whatnot, mid carder, solid mid carder. And if you're under that, you were just a jobber pretty much, you know. And I hate to say that, but that's kind of how they ran for most of the 80s, you know.
Yeah, well,
And
I tell you what, you're going to get ready for what I have to say when we get to the match between Ricochet and
Brody.
your boy
All right.
Brody. Yeah.
All right. So then we go to an interview with Matt Cardona. Uh, Matt challenges the Bad Apple. Now I like Matt Cardona, but I can't really get behind him. You know, he's an underdog. I've always voted for the underdog kind of, and but I just can't get behind him as far as a wrestler. But I like him for some reason. I don't know why.
I cannot stand him. Don't get me wrong. He's a talented man in the ring. He is. Won't take that away from him. But I cannot get past his douchebag character in WWE. Every time I look at him, I think about the
Bro,
Long Island iced tea and woo 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 bullshit. And every time I see him, I think, what a fucking douchebag he is. And I cannot even watch his matches. I just don't like him.
all right. So next we go to Adam Cole versus O'Reilly. MJF tried to interfere and got super kicked right to the ground, which I thought was great. Um, and then Adam Cole ended up pinning his buddy.
Now, during the match, you heard Tony Schiavone talking about how Adam Cole did what he did before MJF turned on him. And I can't remember which color commentary said it, but what he said, I agreed with. He said, so you're going to support a guy that's going to turn on his buddy before he even does something because he thinks he's going to do something. I've said this before, and I will say this again. MJF is the victim, and Adam Cole is the fucking villain. And I really think the fans are even starting to think about that because they were not chanting for Adam Cole last night. They wanted
Kyle O'Reilly.
Kyle O'Reilly to win. They were behind Kyle O'Reilly.
Oh, and I have to say thank you, shithead, or tater nuts, because last night watching Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, all I could think about was the dad bods. thanks, thanks a lot. But
Am I lying? Whoa, 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 guys. Look, we average between 40 to 100 views on this podcast. Now, I don't know if they're watching the entire podcast or not. If you guys aren't, that's fine. Thank you for even checking it out. Appreciate it. But if you are, if you guys get to this point, comment and tell me I'm wrong. WWE has all the wrestlers that are in shape. AEW has all the wrestlers that has dad bods. I'm not wrong with this.
no, you're not. But I didn't think about it until you brought it to light. So thanks a lot, tater nuts. All right, so next we go to FDR. Pretty much cutting a promo for North Carolina. And trying to make money for him, I guess. But they did challenge the Death Riders and said, if you got a problem with us, bring it. Next we go to
This
Chris.
is why.
Oh,
All right, wait, I'm sorry.
no. Say what you got to say.
Yeah, this is why I don't want this match to happen. I love FTR. They are by far one of the best tag teams in professional wrestling. The problem is that they're going to face the Death Riders and they're going to lose another match. FTR has taken enough fucking losses. These guys should be winning matches. These guys should have the fucking titles instead of goddamn Private Party. So, am I saying this could be a bad match? Probably not. But I just don't want to see FTR take another loss.
See, I kind of look at them as Tully and Arn Anderson, because I think that they got the same skill set, all right, and same mentality, you know. Um, I can see this going into like a war games kind of situation, which I think would be awesome, to be honest. If FDR could find two other guys that cut the mustard, and not Darby Allin, not Orange Cassidy. I'm sorry, Adam Page maybe. Jay White would be a nice mix in there. Um, Billy Gunn's Billy Gunn's sons would be a good mix in there. Um, but they got to get the right four to face off. You know.
Yeah, you know what? You remember we were talking about the rumors of the shield, new shield being created?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, if there's a promotion that could start a new four horsemen that I think people would get behind, man, they have it. FTR, Hangman Adam Page, and MJF, because MJF is Ric Flair. I mean, in many ways, he really is his qualities, right? FTR again, just like Arn and just like Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, and Hangman Adam Page. Look, that would be a true great new version of the Four Horsemen, and Tully Blanchard as their manager. Let me tell you, man, I think the biggest mistake AEW, one of the biggest mistakes AEW has made was removing Tully Blanchard from FTR. I really do. But but look, it's like everything else with AEW. They have so much talent and so much that they could do, but yet they're not utilizing it.
All right. Now, with that being said, they had MJF and FDR together at one time with Tully Blanchard. I never thought about Adam Page, but that's nail on the head. You're right there. You're absolutely right. Because Adam Page, while he's not Barry Windham, he's a good, solid person for that foursome. And I think you know what, if and as much as I hate to see a replay of the early '80s and mid '80s, if they did it right, I'd be fucking so behind this. It's not even funny.
Yeah, and let me make this announcement real quick. Anybody should happen to watch this, please share this podcast and let's get this to Tony Khan. So Tony Khan, if you should happen to watch this, me and this guy right here as bookers, we could absolutely help turn AEW around because we have great ideas, I feel like.
Uh,
And if you guys disagree with us, that's fine. But at the minimum, please subscribe to our channel. It's free. Thank you.
right, it's free, and you might get a coffee mug for 19.95. All right, so next we
Here
go
we
to
go. Wrestling, our YouTube channel. And again, guys, ring the damn, wrestling, ring the damn bell.
it's so pretty. It's so pretty.
It's beautiful. And there's more. But we'll tell you what's more once we, become professionals. I'm holding off right now.
Wow, you're reaching for them stars again, aren't you? All right, so next we go to Chris Jericho talking about uh well, you know what? Chris Jericho just kind of went on a rant about promos and Chris Jericho. Then he finally started talking about the Bad Apple and Bad Apple's match against Matt Cardona, and then going on about his contract signing with Matt Cardona. You know what? That was a yawner. I could have done without that. That was like an infomercial in 3 minutes.
Yeah, I love this thing. I used to love Chris Jericho. I've always thought that he was the master at recreating himself. But it's gotten to the point that I'm afraid Chris Jericho is going to become a spectacle of himself. I'm afraid he's going to do to his career, and I might get heat for this, what Ric Flair did to his career. Ric Flair, instead of retiring like he was supposed to, the retirement match against Shawn Michaels, which was a great match, especially for his age, right? But that
Yeah,
should have been his last match because by him going to TNA at that point, getting back in the ring, we didn't see a Ric Flair anymore. We seen a shell of a man that used to be Ric Flair. And then his actual final match that he had, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And I fear that if Jericho keeps on going, that he's only going to be remembered for this shit that he's been doing, which has been terrible. I'm sorry, guys. It's been horrible. Absolutely horrible. Yeah, the learning tree thing was fun, was funny at first, right? But now it's just dumb. And I think he's making an ass out of himself. I think that Jericho would be much more useful in a position that Tony Khan desperately needs, and that's the one kind of guiding him backstage.
right. But then again, not all great wrestlers make great bookers.
Well, and I was about to say, and then again, Chris Jericho, and I guarantee you the whole learning tree was his idea, so maybe not. Because
Yeah,
if he thought that this was good, then I don't want him at Tony Khan's ear.
yeah. But again, you despise this gimmick so much that it'll be remembered. And unfortunately, because it's so crappy, you don't want to remember it. You don't want to remember Chris that way. You want to remember Chris as Lionheart. You want to remember him as you just made the list. Which I think was probably the height of his career at at best. You know, Maybe not the height, but you know, that's
I
when he should.
wonder. I want to remember the Chris Jericho that made his debut in WWE when The Rock was talking and he interrupted The Rock. Right? Even as a heel, Chris Jericho got one of the loudest pops that any superstar has ever gotten. Matter of fact, if you go watch one of AEW's original programs where they have the top 20 or whatever pops ever in WWE, Chris Jericho's debut is in there. I want to remember that Chris Jericho. And my fear is that, again, this younger generation of wrestling fans that doesn't really, they don't know that Jericho from back then, right? Unless they go research and watch old stuff. They're going to remember this Chris Jericho. And this isn't the Chris Jericho that I want anyone to remember. I want them to remember Chris Jericho, the superstar, the guy that was brilliant in the ring, the guy that was brilliant on the mic, the guy that could make you hate him and then turn around and make you love him.
Right. All right. So next we go to a Darby Allin interview with Tony Schiavone. You know what? I really didn't get much out of this other than the fact that he's against John Moxley.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I agree. You know, it wasn't the worst thing on Dynamite last night, but it sure as hell didn't even come close to being the best thing on Dynamite last night.
absolutely. All right. So next we go to Ricochet versus Brody King. This is kind of a beatdown. I'm surprised Brody lost.
That's what I'm upset about, right? The match was going the way it should have went. Brody King beating the living hell out of Ricochet. Um, and then what happens? Brody takes another loss to a small fucking guy. This has to stop with, you know what? I think Brody at this point needs to leave AEW when his contract's up, and he needs to go somewhere that's going to appreciate the fact that he is a big man that can actually fucking wrestle. Um, this shit with Darby Allin and now Ricochet beating Brody on top of the many other losses that he has had, it's ridiculous. Again, they're squandering talent that they shouldn't be squandering. And going back to Ricochet, by the way, did you notice during his promo, he busted out the MVP card that he had, talking about, whatever he was talking about, which is hinting that he may be someone in the Hurt Syndicate. I remember this time because the last podcast I said the Hurt Lock a couple of times and you didn't correct me as so. The Hurt Syndicate. Let me say this. I hope to God this does not happen. Ricochet will hurt this group as being seen as a group that is dominant and that is destructive and about hurting people. I cannot buy for 1 second Ricochet as this big tough guy that is just going to hurt people. Just can't do it.
I think there's possibility there because I think if they bring out a mean streak in Ricochet, it might benefit him.
It's not viable. If anything, you know what I hope happens? I hope that he takes him up on their offer and as he makes his debut with the Hurt Syndicate, they're all walking to the ring for a promo. They get in the middle of the ring. They all talk. And then as Ricochet's talking, they look at one another. Ivy Lashley, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, those three look at one another. And they beat Ricochet until he's bloody. That's
Oh,
what I want to see happen.
Sting?
What?
Kind of like the Four Horsemen did to Sting?
Yes. Yes. The Hurt Syndicate is just, it's too new and they are too dominant, with the exception of them having Shelton Benjamin losing 2 matches already, to have some little acrobat come in as one of them. And I am not dogging these wrestlers who do acrobats. I love it. I'm one of the few old school wrestlers who actually like it. I love Will Ospreay, right? And these other guys, Rey Mysterio, uh, and you know the other guys, right? But that's not what the Hurt Locker. I mean, the Hurt Syndicate's about. The Hurt Syndicate is about getting in the ring and hurting people, beating them, not playing around with them, getting the pin, and leaving. That's what they're about. They're not about what Ricochet has to offer.
Fair enough. All right, so next we go to Private Party. Then Leo Rush and Action Andretti come out and challenge Private Party. Then Top Flight comes out and says, whoa, 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 hold on. And it ends up being Top Flight versus Action Andretti and Leo Rush to face off against Private Party on whoever wins.
Yeah, I tell you what, um, this is going to be an entertaining match to watch. Or at least I'm thinking so. You know, it's going to be fast, fast, fast. Leo Rush, the dude is so fast. This is going to be a very fast-paced match. But whoever wins, I don't care who it is, they're not putting titles on these guys. These are barely mid-carders. They're not going to put a title on them. And that's what I hate about this match is I know that regardless of who wins, that it's predictable. Private Party is going to keep their titles. There's no chance or hope for whoever wins to win the title.
No, I disagree. I think Leo and Action Andretti could take the titles just because of Leo. Because Leo is probably, I'm not a Leo fan either, but you can't help but respect his ability in the ring. And he's quick as a hiccup. Jesus Christ, you blink and you got to rewind to see what the fuck he did. All right. But
Look, Leo Rush should be a main. Leo Rush should be a main eventer. He should. He is that good in the ring. But unfortunately for Leo Rush, he doesn't have the size, and for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter what promotion he's on, if they have him in any type of a main event, it's just so that he can lose. He is a mid-carder that he has reached the ceiling already with AEW. He's not going to be a title holder, regardless of a singles or tag team.
I think he's just bigger. He's bigger than Darby Allin, and I'd put him against Orange Cassidy too. He's
He's
shorter.
shorter than Darby Allin.
Is he really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know the guy's got all that ability and all the talent, and
But
the care about Leo Rush is his own worst enemy.
put it
He
to you this way, Mark. Put it to you this way. Watch him in the ring. Darby Allin, when they throw him into the ropes, his head will at least go over, reach over the top rope. Leo Rush, the middle rope is his top rope.
all right. Anyways, let's see. Oh, Renee with Anna Jane and Monet. Bunch of smack talk. I can see Anna Jay actually taking the belt. I think it's her
I
time.
hope so. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, um, but if she takes that belt, then it's just going to open up Monet to take the world title because I think that's the ultimate goal for her. I think, like I said in the past, she got that Cody Rhodes contract where she ain't going to sign unless she's going to be world champion, and it's not going to be one pay-per-view from the next, it's going to be 6, 8, 10 months where she's going to go on a
Yeah.
streak.
So I tell you, we will know which direction that they're going with Monet as far as the world title when she faces Anna Jay. If she comes to the ring with only the TBS championship, then she is going to be dropping that to Anna Jay and moving on to the world title because she's supposed to be fighting someone, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me, any of you guys who watches this, if I'm not mistaken, she is putting her other title up against someone in New Japan Pro Wrestling, a woman, before the Anna Jay match. So if she drops that title, then I guarantee you that she's going to be dropping the TBS championship to Anna Jay. And then Mercedes Monet is going to be moving on to chase after the world title. And, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, whatever.
Yep. All right. So next, we get a vignette with Rhea, May, and Mina about their past and what led up to their match tonight. Then we go to the match. Uh, Rhea May retains, but the bigger surprise was Tony Storm entered the arena, I guess, and looking like
Yeah, and I'm curious to see where they're going to go with this. I'm almost predicting that um that May and I can't pronounce or I can't remember the person that she just faced for the title. Who was it?
Mina.
Mina. Yeah, Mariah May and Mina. You know what? For some reason, I have a feeling that we could see those two make up and attack Tony Storm. And then where they go from there, I don't know because of what we just talked about. If they have Mercedes Monet drop the title to Anna Jay and have her in the world title run, um, then how are they going to do that? Are they going to somehow try to figure out a way to interject Mercedes into this with Tony Storm? Because Tony Storm, the next storyline, the next person chasing after this world title has to be Tony Storm because I mean she made her comeback last night, which by the way, what did I say that was going to happen when we announced that she was retiring? I said that this was a work. It's that she retired that character and she was going to come back as Tony Storm, her original gimmick again. Once again, I was right. Just saying,
I don't.
I
I
told you so.
having a prior conversation because I sent you the clip of her saying she retired. I don't recall you saying retiring that character, but you said it was a work.
On the podcast, on when we did the podcast next, go back and watch. I said that she's going to come back as Tony Storm. But
All right.
regardless, Tony Storm has to now be chasing after May for that title, I assume. Or will they have Mercedes Moné drop the title while Tony Storm is chasing Mariah May, cause Mariah May to lose against Mercedes, and then have Tony Storm just going after Mariah May? Doesn't matter that it's not for the title. She just wants to whip, Mariah May's ass again. I don't know, but I'm curious to see how they're going to figure all this out. If Mercedes Moné drops that title.
I think if it goes this way, I think it's going to go. Monet's going to drop the TBS title, which would surprise me, but again, gearing up for the world title, and I think she'll face Mariah May, and Tony will get involved and cause Mariah May to lose the belt. They'll have a little feud, and I think ultimately, um, Storm will go after Monet for the belt. That's what I think.
Right. Well, that's what I said, with exception of her going after Mercedes, which I agree. I think that would eventually happen. But I don't want that to happen too soon because if they give Mercedes the belt, the world title, right? and they have Tony Storm go after her within a couple of months, whatever, of her having a belt. Well, we know that they're going to keep that belt on Mercedes for a while, which means Tony Storm is going to lose. I don't want that to happen. I want it to be that Tony Storm goes after the belt and actually wins the belt. So I hope they wait for this chase between Tony Storm chasing Mercedes Moné a good while whenever they're finally ready to take that belt off of Mercedes. I don't think Mercedes deserves the world title, to be honest with you. I don't. Look, if you go listen to any wrestling podcast or interviews where it's not a work, they're really talking, facts. Ric Flair's a good one to listen to. Normally promotions will put the world title on the person that they believe will put eyes on the brand and asses in seats, right? I don't think Mercedes Moné is that person. I've not come across hardly anybody who likes her. And I'm not talking about they don't like her because they're supposed to not like her because she's a heel. I mean, they don't like her as a person, as a professional wrestler. They think that her head's gotten too big. She said a lot of stupid shit that she meant. Um, so I don't think that she should be world title. At least it had the title. At least not right now, because I don't think that she's going to do anything to help AEW and the problem they're having with live attendance and as well as people watching them on TV. I think Tony Storm could do a better job. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think Monet name still carries a little bit more than Tony Storm's.
Possibly, at least in Tony Khan's world, just like Private Party. Look, Private Party is talented, but I don't think they're so talented that they're putting ass and seats and eyes on the TV for any of their matches. People are not watching AEW excited to see Private Party. That's why I don't think they should be tag team champions. It's great. It's a feel good moment for them to win it, but they should just be placeholders. They should put it on people like FTR, um, if or the Hurt Syndicate, put it on Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley. I think that they draw eyes to the product. Matter of fact, I know they do because I hear people talking about them all the time. So, but Private Party, no. Just like the world title, John Moxley. I think at one time he had more people interested in him. But I think that MJF being the world champion makes a lot more sense. I think he draws more than John Moxley ever could. Tony Khan needs to recognize these things.
Yep, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. You know, you want your company to move forward. For the time being, F World Champion, FTR Tag Champions, better yet, House of Black Tag Champions. You know, and have FTR chase them for it. You know, um, get the right people on the right belts. You know,
Yeah, for the love of God, stop trying to make House of Black into baby faces. They belong in the heel category. People love to boo them for the right reasons because they're actually these big, scary guys, right? They draw heat for the right reason. Let them do what they do best, which is being heels. I don't buy them as baby faces. Every time Brody Lee goes to shake someone's hand after the match, after he fucking loses, I'm praying that he's going to give them a clothesline or a fist upside the head, something to put him back in that heel category. I don't like them as baby faces. To me, that just it looks ridiculous. I'm hoping with Julia Hart coming back, that's going to mold them back together, being those heels again. Speaking of Julia Hart, shit, I would love to see a title on Julia Hart because I think that she draws more than Anna Jay even would. I think that she would be a better TBS champion. Not saying that she's ready for the world title yet because she's not. As much as I love her, she's not there just yet. She will be though. You've seen you've seen someone that went from being this dumbass fucking cheerleader, right, to becoming this mysterious figure that has this mystique behind her, that as petite as she pulls off that, yeah, maybe small, but I will freaking rip your heart out your chest very well.
Yep. Yep. She's come a long way.
Yep. So overall, I would give Dynamite tonight a C plus. I can't give them a B because I gave SmackDown a B, and SmackDown was a better show than Dynamite this week.
I mean, Raw.
I mean Raw. I'm sorry. Yeah, Raw was a better show this week, and I cannot put this week's Dynamite at the same level as this Raw. And even better, I gave last week Dynamite a B, and I cannot put this week's Dynamite on the same pedestal as last week's Dynamite. Good show, but a C plus.
I'm going B minus.
That's what you gave Raw. Are you mean to tell me that you think this week's Dynamite is on the same level this week as Raw?
You know, I'm just a bigger fanboy of AEW at this point. I'm just a bigger fanboy. You know,
Well, that's great. You know what's funny is when AEW first came out, if I remember correctly, you and I were talking, and you were basically blowing AEW off. You know, you were Mr. WWE, and I'm the one that was screaming AEW is better, Mark, and you're like, no way.
I don't recall that really because
I will go find the conversation and next week on the podcast prove you wrong, sir.
because I don't really remember talking wrestling more than a year or two ago with you. If it went back
Yeah, it
further, of
was.
course
Was that?
I can't remember last Tuesday, so it could have happened.
Yeah. You're old. It's okay. I mean, I'm old too, but I'm good looking, so.
I can't argue that either. I won't.
Anyway, guys, go ahead.
I won't say good looking. I will say better looking than me, but I won't say good looking.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
I can accept that.
All right.
Anyway, guys, that was this week's recap of Dynamite. By the way, I keep on saying, with the wrestling mug, there's more. Well, let me show you the more parts. Also, I got these nice brown. I picked brown because they were the thicker paper, business cards. This podcast is something I'm taking seriously. I'm trying to build as my co-host is fucking running as I'm talking about, the new business cards that I'm going to be sending to places like WWE. I've already been in talks with them. Also, different other places where I need to have these business cards. And as well as we have an email address, which is the first letters of Ring the Damn Bell. It's RT DB 2024 at yahoo.com. That's RTDB 2024 at yahoo.com. Look, I have different people come on for interviews. So if there's ever a time anyone would like me to ask them a question, if you have a question that you want us to answer, if there's any comments that you want to make about any of the shows that we're doing a recap of, email me and I will read them and we will discuss them. So again, that is RTDB 2024 at yahoo.com. Email me, guys. And again, we will go over the questions you asked, the comments when it comes to these recaps. And hopefully I'll be able to keep on getting more guests on the podcast upcoming. And the beginning of the week, I should have a date, or possibly by the end of this week. Josh Turner's coming on again, professional wrestler. He was OVW when OVW was with WWE. He's an actor. The Walking Dead. He's been on Twilight. He is also I think the CEO. Let me double check that real quick. But he does. Hold on a sec. I just want to make sure I get this right about him. When it comes to some amazing work that he's doing for autism.
What?
All right. He is the oh yeah, he is the national director for fighting for autism, which is awesome. Awesome that he's also doing that. So yeah, Josh Turner will be on the podcast really soon. Go look him up. You can find a lot of his matches. Great guy. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I just want to plug OVW on Netflix. You know, if you're a diehard fan and you like Al Snow, this was a good series to watch because it gave you a lot of behind the scenes of professional wrestling and how hard it is to get a promotion going and keep it sustained. This was a it surprised me how well it was. And I'm an Al Snow fan. I got a lot of respect for him. But I get a lot more respect for him watching this series. So if you get a chance, it's OVW, I think, or wrestler or something. I don't know. Look up Al
Just
Snow
about wrestler.
pop up. You
Yeah,
know.
it's awesome. It really is an awesome documentary. I don't very often sit down and just binge watch things on TV. My attention span is way too short for that. For this documentary, I did. It was very well put together, and it really is. So you guys check that out if you haven't already. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Again, please subscribe. It is absolutely free. And Mark, what you got for me?
Bring it down, Bell, brother.
Ring the damn bell, guys. We will be back on Saturday for the recap of SmackDown. You guys have a good one.